Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Mom and I are both really excited for you to join us this week, and we are super excited. This is our 300th episode, and so we have one of our previous guests on with us, Glenn Klausner. He was on episode 121, where we talked about a journey of a medium, and he talked about being a medium and things like that. So today we're going to just kind of let it flow to where it flows and we'll go from there. So welcome back, Glenn. We're excited to see you with us.
Oh, thank you, Kim and Barb. I'm honored to be back here.
So what has been happening in your life since we last had you on our podcast? I know you've been doing some stuff with your music and
Yeah, I haven't been doing anything really with my music lately in the last year since I've last been on here. I've just been pretty proactive doing readings, now making video reels for my social media platforms. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm still playing music, but I'm not actively recording or performing out live at the moment.
okay.
Right.
They must just pop up on my YouTube. Which is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's getting your music out there. So that's wonderful. What
And my
so
music's my music's under a different name than Glenn Klausner. It's under Glenn with two N's, K with two D's.
right,
Right.
right.
Good to say that. That way people know too that they can find you elsewhere as well. Kim,
Right.
you're from, yeah. You have those in the notes, Kim, for after?
I will have them, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just so if they want to look you up in Spotify or wherever else, they can find you there too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
music's on all those streaming platforms.
Well, that's
Good. Good.
wonderful. So, have you felt in this last couple of years that there's been, like, do you feel like your mediumship has even grown more, that there's been more people needing that, especially this last year being a transformation year and an ending year? I'm just curious if you found that a lot of more people were reaching out.
Well, yeah, I would say that since the pandemic that happened back in 2020 through 2021, there's been a lot of people that are more, I guess, wanting to not just connect with their loved ones, but even get deeper things. You're finding people that are having changes about their relationships and their careers and just where's their life at and where their life is going. So it's a combination of all of it.
Right.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me, especially this year, because I feel like this year, because it's kind of was that ending year where we're wrapping up everything. It's like, where do I go from here? So I think, when you can tap into that and figure that out, do you have any personal insights about what you think is going to be coming up in 2026?
Well, it's a great question. Well, the first thing I would say is for all people to listen to their, if you want to call it God, God-given instinct that every one of us has that's in here, right? We all have these gut feelings. You know when something feels great, you know when something doesn't feel so great, and you listen to it. I've been doing that since I'm a child, is to listen to those feelings. And sometimes when those feelings are, especially the ones that are gnawing at us, they're getting our attention to come up for healing. Uh, Especially if we have a lot of the repetitive kind of feelings that may not be sitting so great, right? Especially right now at the end of 2025 and where things are going. So is to honor those feelings and be able to heal them if need be. But really, it goes a lot. What I talk about on my Facebook Live episodes a lot is about self-love and how that's really so important for us at this particular. It's always been important, but even more so now is having more self-love and compassion for ourselves, and even having compassion for other people in the world after what we've been going through, or a lot of divisiveness that is going on currently in the world. I mean, divisiveness has always been going on, but we see it a lot more, as you know, in these
Right.
times. So going forward to your question about 2026, I think a lot more people are going to want to have more authenticity, more humanness, human connection. Technology is great. It's not going anywhere. We should embrace it, but also not let it consume us to the point where we lose our humanness and our connection to
Sure.
one another. And that's really important. So I think a lot more people are going to be looking to have more in-depth relationships with one another is a thing. And that connectivity, I would say that's going to be a big thing, connectivity with people. Because there's, I think there's some of it that got lost in the last couple of years.
Hmm. I would agree with that. I think
Yeah.
since the pandemic and we kind of isolated ourselves, after the pandemic was over, we forgot how to reconnect back in with each other. And,
Mhm.
it's interesting, even when you were talking about, technology and embracing it. And it's funny because I've been doing a lot of things, and, sometimes it helps to do, chat GPT, like, because that's what it's there for, is to help us out. But then I was like, you know what? Now I'm actually relying on it too much, and I'm not using my own
Skills.
individuality and my own creativeness. And
Yeah.
so, okay, I got to back that back up a little bit and, get my own stuff in there, because I think we do forget that, we need that break away from it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, ChatGPT, I was listening to a video today actually that Greg Braden had done, and I love Greg Braden's work. And he was talking about that with ChatGPT, that you can use it, but you don't want it to become where you're using for everything. You're still using the inner part of you. And then also, I say this as a musician as well, where a lot of people now are constructing songs through AI, as opposed to like when people I grew up listening to, people you grew up listening to, and as well as myself, writing songs that are coming from in the heart and the soul. And maybe you get a title. I've had song titles that, like my song "God and Drag," was that song title was inspired to me by me hearing Ram Dass say, "Treat everyone you meet as if they're God and Drag." And so when I heard him say that, I go, "God and Drag, that'd be a great song title." But I didn't take anything else out of what he was saying into the lyrics or the piano piece of music that I wrote. That
Yeah.
was all. That was all channeled. So.
Yeah.
My thing this year with the internet is to see what's true, because there's so much on there that isn't. And so my thing is, I'm always on there. Okay, is this true then? And so much of it comes back that's not, and which makes me sort of gather into myself again to ask my own question. Is like, okay, um, we need to put more truth out on the internet where people can believe what they're seeing and hearing, versus there's all this other speculation that's on there now. But anyway, I'm not a huge internet other than our podcast and I'm watching everybody else's podcast. I don't do a lot of that otherwise. Email.
Right. But the key thing you just said, Barb, is like asking the truth, even from coming from within your gut. You, Kim, and myself. Let's say we went and looked at. Let's say we were in the Louvre in Paris, and we were looking at the Mona Lisa painting. The three of us are standing and looking at the same painting. We're told that Da Vinci painted this painting. We don't have 100% proof because we weren't there, but we believe that he painted it. Now you're looking at it, Kim's looking at Molly's. Wow, this is great. Now I look at it and I say to both of you, hey, if you put white short, make her hair short and white, doesn't she look like George Washington in the face? Now that's not an insult, right? But maybe that's my perception of it. And you may be like, yeah, I kind of could see that, but is it really true? See? So I think the truth is always like knowing, right, that inner truth is like remembering who you are in truth as a soul. That is really important. But yeah, the three of us could look at the Mona Lisa and you're going, what are you talking about? It looks like George Washington.
Yeah, that's very true. And I mean,
That
it
was
is
good.
all of a perception, right? And I think that's really a good point, because I think even like, especially for you with your mediumship and things like that, you have to trust what you're doing and know that you're in that connection with your higher self, your divine, right? To channel that information down, to know that it's true. And I think when we start bringing in those ego and we bring in all these other different things into the picture, we start to self-doubt ourselves, right? As we're
Yeah,
doing our
Yeah.
practices.
it's true. And a lot of times when I'm doing readings, well, I shouldn't say a lot of times, all the time when I'm doing readings, I always trust what I'm getting from spirit, even if it sounds crazy to me, or I realize I could misinterpret something, but most of the time I'm pretty on with that stuff. What's really funny is that if I said to you, there's a spirit here that says his name is Zachary, and you said, and this has happened to me in readings, and you go, you mean Abraham? I'm like, no, 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 no. We're all the way at the other end of the alphabet. It's Zachary, not Abraham. I could see if I picked up somebody named Randy, but I heard it as Andy, and you're like, wait a minute, my loved one's name is Randy. I go, Okay, and now I give you the benefit of the doubt because I missed the R and I had the Andy part of it right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Exactly.
that's totally trusting what you get from spirit.
Yeah. Because I find too with doing readings, sometimes spirit will give me some kind of information. I'll go, really? It's like, you really want me to tell them that? That sort of thing. And you have to sort of define the edges with it as well. Not that you don't trust spirit what they're saying, but sometimes it comes along strong for me. And so you have to modify, like be gentle.
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
if you do that, but spirit can be so to the point.
That's what I love about talking to spirits is that when they're to the point, even if it means that they're being blunt,
Yeah.
and but they're not doing it in a malicious way. They're doing it like, "Hey, this is what it is." Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. Working on your delivery.
Like, no, I don't want to say that.
It
Well,
makes it more
I've even
financial.
found doing some reading sometimes, and if I'm like, I just get so connected, all of a sudden I'll listen back to it and I'm like, why did I have an accent? That was weird. So I'm just like, obviously, I was whatever whoever I was connected to at that point must have had that coming through me, and that's how it came out. But it was the first time it happened. I was like, that was really weird.
What?
But it was a trusting afterwards because I was like, okay, did I make that up or did that actually just happen? And I was like, no, I trust that that's what I received.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever
It
had that happen?
all the
Or
time, and it's still 30 years later that I'm a professional medium. It still makes me in awe when things that come through from spirit and the person I'm reading for, whether on video or on a telephone call, validate it. Even I sit here and go, wow, that was like really cool. Yeah.
When you do your readings, do you use cards or do you use
No,
notes?
I couldn't read
So,
it. I understand tarot cards a little bit. And sometimes there's been spirits that'll show me a tarot card, and then maybe I have to kind of look it up to see what it means to that situation with the person. But very rare do spirits do that with me because I don't know how to technically read tarot cards at all.
right. So
yeah.
it's basically just sitting in front of them and doing a reading over energy.
Yeah, just challenge whoever the deceased loved ones that come through, whether it's a human or it could be somebody's animal. I've done readings. I've done sometimes readings where there's no human that comes through and it's somebody's dog or cat channeling through me. And it's kind of funny because you're thinking like, how does the dog talk with no, it doesn't have the same voice box like we do. And I go, well, you have to kind of think of it like a cartoon, like Scooby Doo. There's the voiceover actor for it, but in the case that it's consciousness that's talking to us because in the spirit world, our loved ones are not walking around like, oh, hi, Joe, hi, it's all telepathic. So that's how they're communicating back to us anyway. Even though you and I can hear what a spirit sound like. So let's say you heard a woman who was British and she was like, hello, darling. She sounded like that, real deep. And you'll hear that sound and you can emulate it out. But I don't think technically they walk around in the spirit world with that exact voice anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
I would agree with you there.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's some messages that come through that you hear a lot when you're doing readings for people? Do you think there's a lot of the same messages that come from our loved ones that have passed?
There's one definitely particular one, and
Yeah.
that always goes back to love.
Hmm.
So it's not like we're maybe it's not like maybe I'll have like in the same day. I might have two, let's say, two clients, and they both have a father in spirit, and they're not necessarily going to tell me the same thing, obviously, about themselves, but they might have one particular key message that is the same,
Right. Right.
Mhm.
and that could
Happens.
be and that could be not just about love. I mean, let's say in both those families they have the loved one I'm talking to, maybe both two people who don't know each other, maybe they both have an alcohol issue. So both those spirits might engage in that same conversation about it.
Mhm.
It just it varies from, as you know from your own experience, it varies from person to person and spirit to spirit.
Yeah. And I've often heard like a lot of people that have passed on and when they're, A, they're not in pain, B, kind of live your life and do things. Don't, put off what you can do, sort of don't die with your music inside of you kind of deal. And that, or just coming from a place of love and forgiveness when they have passed on into the next realm.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's what I've heard. I haven't actually, I don't channel people per se.
Yeah,
So
but you hear it. I mean, that's a key thing that's always talked about. I mean, there's times, as you know, like I've dealt with this with clients where sometimes you can. I've dealt with it recently for a woman I read on video. Her mom came through. She validated it was her mom, and the mom was talking as normal to me as we're talking to each other. And the one thing the woman said to me is that, "Can you ask my mom? I'm grateful she's here and I'm okay with it, but how come she never showed me love when she was here on Earth? Because she's apparently showing that now to me, but how come she didn't do it when I was on Earth?" And that was like, wow, was a very good question. And now I gotta have the spirit relay why that is.
Yeah, very deep too.
Very deep. And then, I'm watching the woman on camera, obviously I feel what she's feeling, and she's like, I didn't get this from the woman when she was alive. Why is she more nicer now? But she
Right,
knew it was her
right.
mom on the other stuff that I had brought through that she would know it was her mother. So when you're non-physical, there's no more ego. It's all gone. It's judgment, right? This is like as Robin Williams once told me from the spirit world, not from on Earth because I didn't know him. He said this whole place is a Billy Shakespeare production, and that's why which it is. It is a Shakespeare production in a
Yeah.
sense. And we're all actors in a play, and people play parts, and you might kind of go, hey, how come you have a parent who may love you, but they don't love your sibling? Or whatever it is. And there's these soul contracts between people and karmic agreements between people that we make before coming over here and working them out. And the mom actually was interesting. She explained to me, I'll tell you what, talking about that reading, I remember when I asked the mom, how come you and your daughter, you didn't like really love your daughter? Well, she said, well, in a past life, she showed me that her and her daughter, they were brothers a few hundred years ago, and they were on this boat somewhere in Europe. And the mother was as when the mother was the brother, the mother. Okay, so I'll discuss that fight. When they were brothers, and the mom was this sibling, the mom liked to drink when she was the brother, the male. And the one I was reading for, her daughter on the phone, in that lifetime, pushed the mother off the boat.
oh,
Wow.
And now, how do I prove that? I can't prove that, right? But I'm watching the scene. It's dark at night. I can see the boat move in the water. I don't know where exactly it was, but I know it's in Europe somewhere. And I think the mom may have said to me where exactly it was. And then I brought up about this woman's husband. And I said, "Does your husband have a problem with alcohol?" She goes, "Yeah, he just had a beer at 9 o'clock this morning." And she goes, and I go, "Well, your mom obviously is not him reincarnated, but when you all incarnated back, you, your mom, and now your husband in the 20th century, he's part of the storyline to play that out with you of how do you deal with an alcoholic? Because you didn't always deal with it well when your mom was your brother because you pushed her off the boat." Now I said, "Don't worry, you're not going to hurt your husband this lifetime. Nothing's going to happen." But and I was like, even myself after I got off that call, I thought, wow, that's an interesting how that story is. And I asked if her husband, the woman's husband, was part of the lifetime with the mom when the mom and the daughter were brothers. And the mom said to me, no, he's only another actor playing out that part, that alcohol part, to see how my daughter will handle this guy.
yeah.
And I thought, wow. And the thing is, being a medium and channeling that, like, how do you really prove it? Like, unless you go through people who go through past life regression and hypnosis. But what's amazing about, and I don't always delve into past life stuff with deceased people, but that moment was one of them. And that reading I just did was about a month ago, if that, close to a month ago. And I thought that was very fascinating as I'm retelling the story and I'm thinking about it, I'm going, wow.
Well, it just
Yeah.
goes to show how connected our souls are and how we do all play a part. And, we need these people into our life to either spur us on and move us forward or make us stop and pay attention a little bit. And sometimes we get the lessons, I think, and sometimes well, we need another lifetime to learn that lesson one more time in a different way. And, you know, we journey with a lot of the same people. So I find that that intrigues me a lot is just how we, I always joke with that with my kids. I'm like, well, you chose me, so whatever.
Right. All right,
I
mutually
know,
we chose each other.
Yeah, yeah. So, I
that's
mean,
true.
it's good. They're old, they're older now, so they don't find that quite as like, mom, roll your eyes, right?
I think it's good though because they went to you to she went to you and then she's finally found some peace with it, right? Because what you've told her, so she could find some peace to find, okay, well, that's just what it was at the time, right?
Yeah.
So it's that I guess that's why it's important that you're out there to help people find their way through some of this, whether it was a past life or what they're doing right now. But that's why we need you and to be there for the people that need those questions answered.
Well, thank
We all have questions.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully in the woman's case, the client that I read, hopefully I gave her some peace and to understand why her mom did not love her the way she deserved to be loved in this lifetime. At the same time, me delivering, and I'm not laughing at that situation. I'm laughing in sense like not at what happened, but I'm in the sense of thinking like I had to now tell her that past life because the mother was telling me the story, and I'm like, now this woman's probably thinking, oh my God. So I killed my mother when she was my brother in another lifetime by pushing her off this boat because she was drunk and I had enough of her being drunk or hit as a him. And it was like, and now, and I haven't spoken to the woman since, so I don't know if I know after she got off that reading. Hopefully it helped and gave her some healing to have a clarity of why that relationship was the way it was. But at the same time, I'm sure it probably thought in her head, I can't believe I actually killed somebody in another life.
And do you hear back from people that you have like have sat for you? Do you hear back from them that they say to you, "Oh, I didn't understand that when you said it, but now, a couple of days later, weeks later, that totally made sense, and I just needed to let you know."
Yeah, sometimes I've gotten emails about that where somebody will tell me because I can understand how a reading plays out where somebody may not conceptually get it at first, and then as it's marinating, so to speak, then you're like, aha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, sometimes
Mhm.
there's so much information, I think, when you're getting a reading that like you can't put it all together and then you walk away or you're telling somebody else about it and they're like, geez, that sounds like your brother or your mother or your right. And then they're like, oh, that makes total sense to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has happened a lot throughout my career where people will respond back to that, and they may at first when they're having a reading may not even remember that their grandma had blue eyes, and then they ask another relative, like, "Yeah, how did you not know the woman had bright blue eyes?" That would be different if you didn't meet grandma. Nobody ever told you she had bright blue eyes. That would be totally understandable,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but it varies.
It does. So do you also get when you're doing readings or do you get premonitions about things that are like do you have any premonitions that are coming up for the 2026 that
I
you
haven't, so there are a lot of psychics and mediums that get into that, like they'll make these world predictions. I'm not one of them. I can, if I'm working one on one with somebody, see like things that could be coming up ahead. Like for instance, if somebody's going to get pregnant and have a kid, or whatever that kind of stuff. But as far as major Earth stuff, like with weather or stuff that's going on around the world between like Canada and America and Europe and so forth and so on, I don't tend to delve into that unless I'm very really asked. I mean, I have been asked a few times about our current situation here in America. Uh, and I really don't delve too much into it because I realize that uh, it's a touchy subject. So I just have to kind of. I know that there are psychics and memes that go on YouTube and they'll talk about it, or astrologers will talk about it. I choose not to.
Yeah.
that's okay because
Yeah,
religion in politics is very touchy.
yeah.
Um,
Well, my parents taught me that early on when I was a kid.
oh yeah. Did you do a reading on Robin Williams? Robin Williams?
So, in a long story short about him, I mean, I was a fan of his work, obviously, like a lot of people.
Okay.
When he passed, oh yeah, I definitely took that really hard, and not because he was a celebrity. It's just something about him as a soul, right? And I felt a kindred connection to him. Robin and I are both Cancerians, and we both have a Pisces moon. Even though he's older than me, I have a Virgo rising. Robin, it was triple water. He had a Scorpio rising, so that's why he was kind of a little bit off the wall. He had three water signs, plus other things that he ingested early on in his life that made him a bit bouncing. The kind of crazy thing is the house that he lived at where he passed in California. From what I know about this house, which if I would have known Robin, I would have told him get out, move out of that house, find somewhere else to live. Especially that he had the money, he could do that.
Yeah.
Even though I think Robin had lost a lot of money through divorces and stuff, but when you opened the front door of Robin's house, the first thing you saw straight out the back was a big swimming pool, and behind past that was the Pacific Ocean. So that's a
Wow.
lot of water. So he's not walking in seeing like let's say a brick wall or the kitchen or living room something. He is seeing a lot of for a guy who's a triple water sign. It would probably happen to me if I was in that house because even though he's triple water, I'm double water. And then seeing that double water straight out as your view, it was too consuming outside of the brain conditioning he had. So what happened is, long story short, how he ended up channeling through me. I've not channeled any to him to any of his relatives.
Right.
There's a couple of things. I'll make them as quick as I can. When he passed, I had a friend who was a medical medium named Mona Delfino, based out of Oregon. She's since passed away. So she had contacted me. She said, "Hey, Glenn, this is crazy, but she's telling me that Robin started to visit her and talk. And she's like, I'm wondering maybe you could tap into him." Poof, there he is, right? He starts talking to me. Now, the thing is, how do I prove it's him? Because we both don't know the guy personally. But he's coming through with real pure love. I mean, this guy's talking about blue eyes. When his spirit looks at me, you can feel the genuine. I may get a little teary. You can feel the genuine, unconditional love that a guy, him, a total stranger to me, or I'm strange. Well, now I'm not a stranger to him after 11 years, but there's this beautiful feeling. So here's where there's two things how I knew it really was, three things how I knew he's talking, actually four things. So uh, I'll start with this friend of mine who at the time was she lives in the state of Illinois, and she was not married. She had just gotten divorced. She was living on her own for the first time in her adult life.
Wow.
I'm talking to her on the phone. Robin shows up. And now I see Robin's arms, because Robin was a hairy guy. So I see his arms. I see the whole thing of him. And he's making an image like he's putting like this. He's being playful with this woman. He's not doing anything weird, but he's being playful. He says, "Hey, can you ask her?" Now I don't see her on a video thing. I've never been to her home. I'm living in New York City. I'm talking to her on the telephone. He says, "Can you ask her why does she have a picture of that singer Bret Michaels in her bedroom? She's not going to be able to get a man in that bedroom with that picture of that rocker guy. Take the picture, put it out in the living room. She doesn't have to get rid of it." She says to me, "Are you now?" No, I knew she was a fan of this guy, Bret Michaels, because of his solo act, not with him in the band Poison, which he's mostly known for. She says, "Are you serious? I do have this picture of Bret Michaels in my bedroom. Should I throw it?" Yeah, I said, "No, no." He said, "Just take it out of there, put it in your living room." So I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty wild. Then he says to me, "Ask her why does she have a clock up near her kitchen that doesn't work? Why is she keeping the clock up there?" She says, "Are you serious?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "I do have a clock up there. It doesn't work. And the only reason why I keep it there is because I like it." And it was at that moment that I really knew Robin was talking to me. What really happens after that had to do with two actors that he actually worked with, who I know. And I'll tell you a quick story with the one of them who doesn't know I'm a medium. The other one knows I'm a medium. But the
Right.
and as he's standing on his steps, I see Robin's spirit standing next to him. And he says to me, Robin's going like this to me because he knows I can see him. He goes, he says, "Tell him I said hi." I said, "I can't tell him you said hi. He doesn't know I'm medium. He just thinks I'm a musician. I don't know what his take is on medium stuff." He's like, come on, tell him I said hi. I said, "I'm not telling him you said hi, Rob. I'm sorry." Funny. because I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm really going bonkers, right? Well, but then I tell him, Robin's spirit standing right here, want to say hi. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, his spirit. He goes, he didn't understand. I had to tell him. I said, I thought you knew I'm a medium. He goes, oh, yeah, right. I said, I swear on my life. I said, I had no idea you guys ever did a movie together. I said, but this proves to me that it really is him talking to me.
That's
And
true.
then he was like, oh, and he was like, is Robin okay? I go, yeah, he's okay. And this was about a year after Robin's passing at that point.
Right.
Two of my
Sorry,
favorite people.
sorry for the long-winded story, but I will say that something about Robin, in closing with him, that anytime he's coming channel through me, he's talking to me like we're talking to each other. He's not talking to me from a celebrity point of view. He's just talking as a guy who really just had the ups and downs of life. Coming talking about love and soul, and he's still funny, but there's nothing, there's no, there's I don't know how to put it, with the exception of saying, from my experiences channeling him channeling messages through me, even though he has funny moments, but when he gets into a serious moment where he really sincerely means something, you could tell by the way he's looking and talking, it is nothing but pure unconditional love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that. I just was listening to a podcast actually, and they were actually talking about Robin Williams on the podcast and said when he was alive, they were saying how genuine of a person he was. He was so authentic and he would do anything for anybody. He was just so full of love, never thought he was any better than anybody else. He would just was like on everybody's level. And so that was a really cool thing to kind of hear. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one good giggle that he's given me about myself, because there's some moments where I've had those, I like it's part of being human. Sometimes you have these moments that are sadness, the dips, and we all go through it as part of human, right? Unless you become some sort of superhuman where you never feel sadness or anger or anything. But I remember him telling me one day, he goes, I don't know why you call me girl because he kind of knows I'm straight, but he'd be like, girl, you gotta walk down the street like you want, like John Travolta's Saturday Night Fever. He's doing the strut, but I think it's funny when he does that to me.
that is funny. That is funny. Well, he was quite comical. So,
He
you
was
know,
very funny.
Yeah.
and I think it's neat that these people come to you once they've passed and want to give you some messages for yourself and, you know, give to other people as well. So I think it's just amazing when you just connect in because I would imagine you weren't necessarily, I don't know how to put this nicely. Like you're not like, oh, I think we're gonna channel Robin Williams today. Like you were
No,
looking
no.
around at who you were gonna channel. It just comes to you, I would suspect.
Yeah, I mean, it really started with that friend of mine, Mona, who he approached first. And to my knowledge, I don't think Robin was into going to psychics or anything like that. I mean, he made that great movie called What Dreams May Come. If you've never seen it, definitely check it out. It's a great movie that he stars in. And I don't know, it's funny that, talking about him, he's not in my presence, but I feel this like, I almost feel like I want to cry because when you have a soul, and that's not to take that away from us or anybody in the world. When you have some sort of, it's not because he was a notable person. You have that soul that's just something pure there, a light that you can't. I've met people like this that are not here anymore. That there's something about them, a light that you can't really describe, but you can feel like, wow, that's what love is.
Yeah.
As I probably Robin's probably somewhere around because he's hearing me talk about him, but I can feel that like I want to know who you, I want to know you, like I really want to know who you are. I feel that I can feel that feeling even from probably his energy field somewhere.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes
Tell me
sense.
how are you? And it's when people say how are you, most of the time, sometimes people don't really want to know. But I could see his energy being like, no, no, I mean, tell me really, how are you?
Which I think comes almost like full circle to where we started, where you were saying as we're going on kind of in this life and moving forward, about reconnecting with people in that way, coming from that pure love. So it's almost like he's like, you're getting the message kind of from him to share out with everybody. And it's like now it's kind of come full circle back that, we're talking about him, and this is the message as, being authentic and, giving your time and paying attention to people. Because you're right. Like a lot of times people are like, hi, how are you? And then they're gone before you can even say anything, right? Because we've
Yeah.
just forgotten how to have this connection with each other.
True.
Yeah, and maybe there's a reason why I brought him up in this conversation, because maybe I'm sure somewhere in the galaxy he probably prompted that out of me. Not because of him being him. I think it's because the authenticity, taking the care and the time. Another guy was like this. Was this drummer named Eric Carr. He was in the band Kiss. He was the second drummer. Eric Carr was from Brooklyn, like myself, and ironically has the same birthday like me, but he was old. He was older than me. And from what I know about, I never met him, but I know people who know him or knew him, I should say. And they all said the same thing. He was such a nice, down to earth guy. When people would write him back in the days before internet, and people would handwrite letters, fan letters or whatever to him, he wrote everybody back. You know what that's
Wow.
like?
That's pretty
Wow.
amazing.
Or while Kiss was on tour, and let's say he was staying in a hotel where you live up in Canada, and he would hang out in the lobby. If you wanted to meet him, he was accessible, where the other main guys weren't that accessible to me.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's pretty neat.
So, so when I think about him, not because we're both from Brooklyn, have the same birthday. I mean, that's a little part of it, but I think just that humanness of what he gave to people. Still, his anniversary of his passing is the same day as Freddie Mercury from Queen. They both passed the same day,
Wow.
and their anniversary just happened. So, and people still talk about Eric Carr, and people who met him still remember the impression that he left on them
Wow.
Wow.
34 years later.
That's
You come across to me like you're very authentic,
Thank
and very real too, which makes me believe that's why Robin Williams was with you, sort of thing, and why he comes through. Because I don't think that he would come through to somebody that isn't how he would be in his lifetime. I just feel that that's a kind of a connection with spirit life, that when they come through, they try to come through authentic and real. Pardon me. And you come across to me that way, like you almost cried when you were talking about Robin Williams, how he was in his lifetime and that. And it's really cool to see that, because particularly through a man, because most don't show that.
So, yeah, and probably the cancerian in me, but but you and you and Kim have that same thing. It's nice when you connect with people that are really authentic. And I know, like, not in my work, but when there's moments when if you, this is why fame is such a, I mean, I'm not famous in the way people may perceive that. I mean, when I walk around here in New York, people think that because of the way I look. But I think like fame is such a funny thing, because if you have people that, you know, I don't know, I've never had the experience that famous people have, right? But inauthenticity feels so fake. And I'm not talking about somebody has plastic surgery on their lips or their nose or something. I'm talking about inside, never mind the cosmetic outside. I mean, my hair, I can say, okay, this is really my hair. It's not my natural color. I was born a blonde. It got to be ash brown by the time I was 6 years old. And by the time I was 19 or 20, I made my hair jet black. So if somebody said to me, is your hair really your real hair color? I could say, no, but it is really my hair. So,
That's
but
okay.
but the inner part, when you're being your authentic self, I think that's what makes people so attractive to people. And it's a nice thing, because for me, I don't know how to be fake, as a person. So if somebody says to me, do you like me? I could honestly say, yeah. If somebody said to me, do you not like me? And I didn't like them, I would say, I don't like you, but I don't hate you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
Even
I
with
think that like I agree with mom. Like you're very authentic, and that was one of the reasons we did want to have you back on, because last time we had such a great connection and such a good conversation, and we didn't really know where our conversation was going this time we didn't have anything planned and it's just kind of rolled out so beautifully and so authentically. So, we appreciate you being on with us to talk about stuff like that and to share these experiences that you have been, so blessed to have with other people so that they can learn through this as well. So we do really appreciate that about you.
Well, thank you, Kim. I appreciate that too, because just the way this conversation is flowing, and I love that about being on a podcast such as yours, a wonderful podcast that more
Thank
people could be, you're getting millions of followers and all that wonderful stuff. But this is authentic, and you're having an open dialogue conversation about spirit stuff and love, and that's what makes communication between people so wonderful.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think we need so much more love in our world. And I think when we can shine that out to other people coming from a very authentic place, I think
Yeah.
that's important. Like I know there's just some situations in my life where I am in like more so at work, but like there's just some animosity in there. And I've just been trying to go in it with a different view and just be like, let's spin our view on things. Let's just try to be happy. Let's bring some laughter back. And then we joke around about, let's well we interviewed someone that said put crystals under everybody's chair. So I was telling a couple of the girls, I'm like, how about we all split on the cost and we'll just put it crystals under everybody's chair, right? But coming from that spot of authenticity, I think is so important. We need
Yeah.
more of it.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'll share a kind of like crystals are great. I have a few of them here. I have a citrine and amethyst up there on my here in the living room, and I have a pyrite out here too. But it was when I lived in Florida from 1998 to 2007 in Fort Myers, Florida. In those first 2 years, almost 2 years, I was working out of a New Age bookstore called Planet Earth Book Center, and the owner hired me on the spot. It was a long story, but I went in there. I met her years ago, but when I went into off to get a job there, I said, I don't know if you remember me from years ago when we met. And I'm doing readings, this whole thing, and she was listening to me talk. And I said, "There's a spirit here, a man." He says his name is Philip, and he says that he's your husband. She said, "You're hired." I was so taken back. I'm like, "What? What do you mean?" She goes, "That is my husband. That's his name. When can you start?" I'm like, "Well, I'm moving over here. That was next week." Well, anyway, so there was a woman that worked in the shop. These women are now since deceased. The people I've met were there. It was a woman from New York, like myself. She was from the Bronx, actually. Her name was Barbara Drago. You and your mom would have loved this woman. Oh my God! I wish I do have a picture of her, but put away. But this woman, I have to tell you, first of all, she she had such an infectious laugh that you couldn't help but laugh when she laughed. She read. She didn't know how to read tarot cards. You know how the card she read was the same cards that you would play blackjack or poker with. So she would look at the three of diamonds or the four of clubs. She would get this whole interpretation. Barbara was like another mom to me. But here's the point with what I'm saying. So she would come into the store. She only worked three days a week, and when she had a cane because she was a bit older, and that's not why she had a cane, but she had a cane because she had some health thing. But there was these chimes that were hanging. So when you opened the door, the chimes were up higher, so you would have to kind of like tap them, reach your arm up or something to tap them. She would come in, I kid you not, with her cane. I wish I had video of this. And she would bang on the chimes with her cane and she would go, "Blessings on the store and everybody in here and who comes in here." And then she would start with her infectious laugh. And you couldn't help, everybody starts laughing because of her. Barbara, God rest your soul, everywhere you are in the cosmos. But that's what I mean. Like, so the point was, even though she banged on the chimes, her love that she brought into the building is what really transmuted. Even if somebody in the building was feeling a little wonky,
Right.
you could do the same thing in your workspace. Like maybe do like a Robin thing, go in there and dance like sort of what he did in the birdcage when he's doing that scene, Twyla, Martha Graham, whatever. They just go there, good morning, everybody. Or I'll take something even a little funnier. If you ever see this movie called Coming to America with Eddie Murphy, there's a great scene when he's in New York and he goes out on the balcony. He's like, "Good morning, New York." And like somebody's, I don't want to say a curse word on the thing here, but somebody's yelling back something to him in curse, and he's like, "Yes," and he says the actual curse word back. But the way it comes out early morning, good morning, everybody, or good morning, my neighbors, whatever he's saying. But I think that's kind of the more humorous thing is if you're in a good mood, you can come into that workplace and just bring it up with humor. Humor, as you know, can really humor and laughter. I mean, humor is the same thing. Humor and laughter and love can really transmute people in a space. That doesn't mean that hey, maybe later in the day, your coworker's feeling a little wonky, whatever. But at least you can do your part.
Yeah. Well, it's
Right.
often funny because if I'm in the coffee room by myself, I'll whatever. I'll go on some social media and I'm looking and there's often my algorithm has a lot of funny things. I'm in there by myself and I am just cracking up laughing and they'll walk by the door and they'll be like, "Oh, there she is in there again, laughing by herself." But then they start laughing. So, true to what you just said, it's just
Yeah,
infectious, right? Because people are like, why is she so happy?
yeah. And believe it or not, actually, in a lot of readings that I do, despite the grief that someone that I'm reading for has gone through or going through, or how the person passed, I'll tell you, every reading I ever do, I always tell the client, if you hear me laughing, I please know in your heart that I'm not laughing at you, because
Right.
these spirits sometimes have me cracking up with the stuff that they talk about, and I'm like, and that just to show. I think that's such a wonderful thing how laughter is an amazing gift on this planet.
I agree.
Yes, and a smile. I like to laugh. I laugh a lot. I'm a giggler, actually.
Yeah,
Try not to giggle about everything, but things catch me funny. Other people just they say something that connects to a song that I know or something, and that goes with the flow sort of thing with me. And the next thing I know, I'm giggling about something else. But I just think that it's so important because it puts a smile on my face, and oftentimes if I'm smiling, the other person will smile too, you know. And that's putting it out there to people saying, relax.
right. Well, that's a matter of fact. The spirit that I talked to recently said to me, it was just a couple of days ago, to not, their advice to their loved one was to not take, and it was also towards me as well, to not take life here so seriously. That doesn't mean like, yeah, if you know somebody needs 911, don't go, yeah, you'll figure it out. Yeah, call 911, you know. But in other stuff most of the stuff that we worry about or we get so, and it happens to all of us. But
Yes,
not
it
to take
does.
it so seriously. Like just realize it's a game in some weird way, and do the best you can to just find whatever brings you joy each day. And I know that's hard for a lot of people because different circumstances that people are in around
Mhm.
the world. And so, how do you find humor in things that are not humorous?
Hmm. Yeah,
True.
But I think
that's
from
I
what
live
I
life.
But I think from what I know, I remember reading a story about a guy who was in the Holocaust, and what he did and amazingly survived. My brother and I, we have different dads. We have the same mom. My brother's father, who's now since passed, he was a Holocaust survivor.
Oh,
And
wow.
but what I'm about to quickly tell you is not from him. It comes from a man that I heard a story about where when he was in there, he kept visualizing what his life would be like out of that, where he'd be living. Ironically, he pictured Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. He pictured they would be married, have a kid, kids, whatever it was. Somehow, that was his focus. That when he got out of that situation, he came to America, and where did he go? Boop, right to California. And then all these things that he was visualizing started to happen for him, living in Beverly Hills, meeting a woman to be his wife. I think he met the wife before they went off to California, actually. I think he may have stopped somewhere else in the Midwest before getting to
Right.
California. But the point of that story is in that crazy situation that he was in, him and a lot of other people were in and didn't survive, he kept visualizing a way out.
hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Well, can you tell everywhere one where they can find you?
right here on your podcast.
Yeah. Besides
They,
that.
if they just close their eyes and think of me, I'll be there. They, I say I'm trying to make you over there. They can find me on my website. Glenn is named after me, glennklausner.com. I'm also on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram under that name.
Perfect. Wonderful. We will throw all of that in the show notes, and we'll throw your music YouTube in there as well so that people can go check you out because you're wonderful. So
Yeah,
we really appreciate you being on with us for 300. Yay, we made it.
thank you. And just remember, for the music, it's Glenn with two N's, Kid with two D's.
Okay. I will
Yeah, thanks for being on for our 300th. We're pretty excited.
I'm honored. Thank you. Cheers to the 300th show with a glass of water for the folks at home.
Exactly. Yep. Same.
Thanks. This has been really great. And may you have much more continued success with your wonderful podcast.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
And
And right back at you.
yes, exactly. And if you had a final thought to leave with all of our followers, what would it be?
I will say of a video that I made yesterday and posted on my social media page that it is, you were born lovable and you will always be lovable.
I love that.
Nice.
Almost
That's nice.
tears to my eyes, actually. So again, thank you from both of us. We really, really did appreciate you being on with us and love to have you back sometime. And
Yeah.
I would love to. Much love to you and your families and happy holidays.
thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
as
And
you.
well.
all the best to everyone who's watching this for 2026.
You
Or
bet.
or whatever year it really is, because no one really knows.
Right. Exactly.
Isn't that the truth?
And everybody else, tune into the next one.
You bet.